Hey AfterBuzzers, welcome to this spooktacular edition of Spotlight On. Today I have a wonderful guest who is charmingly talented, and it's a cool coincidence that he comes today because it's Halloween and he plays the title character in Houdini and Doyle. I have Michael Weston. Stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Hey guys, welcome to Spotlight On, and welcome Michael. Thank you for being here. So tell me what this song is.
This is my wife.
Aww.
It's my wife's new, it's her new children's album that just dropped, and I've heard it 8 million times, and it doesn't make you want to kill yourself, which is nice.
It sounds really adorable.
It's so adorable, and it's got all these little lullabies on it. So
yeah.
If you're working on putting someone down for a nap, it doesn't matter if it's grandma, it's all right.
There you go. Good way to go about it, right?
Yeah.
Does it sound?
And it was recently your birthday, so belated happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
You do anything special?
No, I mean I can't. I just had a kid, so everything is special. It's like I could bore you and make your eyes fall out with all the stories of cuteness. I took my little guy to the park. We went and we zipped around for a while. He just started to walk, so it's sort of awesome. So you just sit there and you watch him just be like about everything, and then finally he falls, and then it's tears, and then and then you start the whole thing again.
Yeah.
But it's awesome. It's that was my birthday. I mean, everything has become very low key. All of our everything we're like, let's plan, and then none of that happens right now. We just sort of get the kid, and we're like, all right, well, let's stay at home, and we had a glass of wine to polish it off, and that was good. Yeah.
Sounds like a good, relaxing. Sometimes low-key birthdays are the better way to go. Yeah. Because then it's like less stress.
Yeah.
Just relax.
At a certain age, I think you just are like, I can't do it anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So no, but it was really fun. And it was great, and
yeah.
And another one down. Another ring on the tree.
There you go. Yeah. And you've done a fun selection of films. And Garden State, probably people most know. What is the most notable one that people are like, hey, that film?
Oh my gosh. I was
gonna say Garden State was a name I was like, oh yes, I know that one.
Yeah, it depends on the age range or whatever. And I've done a bunch of sort of horror-y films. So if that's your genre, people like those. Or a lot of people like Garden State. It's tough. People come out. I've done really random, weird sort of indie movies. So every now and then, people will be like, "Evil Alien Conquerors." I'm like, "What? You?" There's only 4 of you out there, but I love you.
Hey, fans are fans. So,
yeah. No, you love those ones. Wait, I did that when I was 17.
Nice.
I wasn't working when I was 17.
What's been your favorite film and why?
Gosh. I love doing independent film. It doesn't really exist in the same way that it did when I was doing it. But Garden State was great. But I did this film called Brooklyn Brothers Beats the Best with my friend Ryan, and I think all the independent stuff you do, you get a chance to. You have this very small group of people, and you collaborate in this really intimate way, and it's also sort of on crack because you have 4 weeks or 3 weeks or whatever it is, and so you just write it out, and I find that it's fulfilling and fun, but it also has this sort of great energy to it that sometimes when you're in TV, which I love, and also bigger movies, the sort of hierarchy and the caste system is so large, and there's so many people incorporated in it, and it just doesn't have the same feel. Whereas on a independent set, if you're the lead actor and you're also the PA, everyone is sort of working together, and I've always loved that. I've loved the sort of intimacy of that on and off set.
No, definitely. It sounds like a better. It's one of those. It's not a better or worse, but sometimes it's nicer.
It's a nicer, more human way to sort of, and more creative. I find I always if you're there on set every day, I love collaborating with everyone. I like having that feel that we're working on something together, and we all care about it, and we know it, and we're gonna give it our best. And so if I sort of want make that sort of, I nurture that if I can, and then I sometimes feel like on the bigger stuff, which I love, it just has a different feel to it. You sort of do your job often, and then you go on, and there's not the sort of same camaraderie between the whole group. It is between the actors, or it is between whoever you're working with. But it's different. It's just different. It's a different deal. But it's all it's all great. I always feel very blessed to be in this profession. Period. So
Did you always want to be an actor?
No, not really. I sort of wanted to be a baseball player, but I threw my arm out and I was probably too small. But I still want to believe that I could have made it, man.
So you're gonna teach your son to play baseball and be like, you were gonna be the baseball player.
Every time I just sort of push the ball in the frame. You sure?
Yeah.
But he's chucking stuff. He's chucking everything. Now I have to be like, you can't. No, not that. Don't chuck that.
Don't break the glass.
Phone aside, cell phone.
Yeah.
No, yeah, he's got a good arm, and his mom throws a good. She's got a good arm too.
Yeah.
So hopefully she gets some good genes.
There you go. Yeah. And then you've also done, besides a lot of films, you also have done a lot of different TV shows, and very varied.
Yeah.
Would you
very
say?
Varied.
Yes.
Very varied TV shows. Yeah. I mean, gosh, I don't even. You have to tell me what I've done. I don't even remember. Honestly, it's like.
And so much.
No, it's that you just sort of keep going. And I just did an episode of Rosewood with my dear friend James Roday, and Andy Berman wrote it, and Todd Harton is the creator of the show, and these are all guys that I know and admire and love, and so I don't know. You get this chance to like work with your friends. It's pretty much the best thing that you can do. I made like a New Year's resolution years ago. I was like, I'm gonna work with my friends as much as possible, and I really have over these last couple of years, and it's so much fun. It sort of cuts through a lot of just red tape, and you have this shorthand, and you get to I don't know. It's great for an actor, and I think it's also great. Sort of rewriting stuff on the fly as you go, and you have the trust that it's all sort of gonna come together. It's cool.
Yeah. Well, would you say once you've experienced that, you kind of understand why other film groups utilize a lot of the same people?
Totally.
Yeah.
It's the dream, and you're also just really you're happy going to set every day because you're gonna see your buds and you're gonna hang out and I think creatively it opens everyone up because you feel safe, and you also can push each other in the right direction, and you can say whatever you want. If you disagree, no one's ego is gonna get brushed. It's like, oh yeah, let's make that better. So yeah, it's cool. It was really fun. I just finished that the other day, so that was really cool. Holding people hostage for use.
Oh, because that's what you do.
I don't know what to do.
Just in a day's work, right?
It's so funny. It's such a. I've got like this thing that explodes on here and guns over here, and it's very funny. You put that down and you go back home and you're like, hey honey, what's up? Should we make some sweet potatoes?
It's a nice complete switch of lifestyles.
Yeah,
you're going
from
one world to the next. Well, I don't know.
Food.
You might be holding that sweet potato hostage.
Yeah, that sweet potato got wrung for its very life. I'm sorry to say.
And then, well, one of the things you've done too is you've also played detective-like characters.
Yeah.
You got to be Lucas and House.
Yeah. I love those. Are sort of my favorite of all because they're sort of snappy and prying into people's their vulnerabilities and also their secrets and stuff like that. So it was really fun.
Because he cuts through the BS and
cuts through BS and has his own little shtick going on. Yeah, I love doing that thing on House. It was really fun. It's where I met David Shore, who ended up being the creator of Houdini and Doyle, and David Hazelton, who was creator as well. I think David Hazelton was a writer on it, and I did one of his episodes, I think. Anyway, he's awesome and funny, and we had a great time.
On House, do you think you related to Lucas much, or how similar or dissimilar were you to your character?
Gosh, I mean, definitely a lot of similarities, and just, I guess, being a little shit sometimes. I love it when I love my repartee with House on that. I love being able to with Hugh because he is a very, like a misanthrope. He has a very sort of dark perception of life, and I am sort of the opposite, and we would. But he's hilarious and sweet and warm and funny as can be, and of course crazy talented. And so we hit it off. We had a really good time just sort of exchanging different worldviews, and it sort of carried on to set. And I think that was already in the writing. But I always love how the personal stuff that you have off stage can sort of bleed onto into the film or into the work a little bit. And so I love doing that. And he was so much fun to play with because he's so like alive. He's completely there, you know. And you know, sometimes I don't know. Actors work in such different ways. You don't never really know exactly who you're. Some are wonderful actors, but they're very sort of tuned into they've got it all sort of worked out already, and they're just, you know, and they're gonna go. They're like a locomotive. They're just going, and you sort of you play with that in a different way. But he was there. It's just like completely sort of present and working with you, and I love that because I think the stuff ends up being really spontaneous and alive. You know. Did
you get much improv? Were you allowed that?
No, I mean the scripts are so to David Shore's credit, we would arrive at the table reads for that show in particular, where the scripts were so good and they were like meticulously gone over and worded, so you didn't feel you had the right to mess with the words because they were really good, and the rhythms of it and the sort of, you know, and just the whole setup of it and the timing of it was all very specific, and it was, and you didn't need to, you know. Some shows you really do need to because it's a little more slapdash, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense, and can I and it's just a different style. Ooh, I knocked my B here. I like it. No, I didn't mess around with that at all. And if I did, you know, on those shows, and 6 Feet Under was another one of those that was like, they had such respect for the writers, and they had worked so hard on making it sort of perfect, that if you did have a question, you go to the writer, and some shows you don't. You just, as an actor, you're just like, well, I'm not going to say that. I'd never say that. I would never do that. but you can get away with that stuff sometimes, whereas the right, you know, I'm sort of a theater actor turned film TV stuff, and you know, you don't mess with the words in that. It's sort of, you have a deep respect for whatever is on the page, and whatever cuts the director has made. If it's, you know, Hamlet or Long Day's Journey into Night, no one wants to sit through 17 hours of that, so they cut them down. But you have a real respect for it, and you make it work. Like, it's your job as the actor to sort of make it work. And you know, it's different. It's different on every show, but I love it when the writers have that integrity, and they sort of demand that integrity of everyone, because it sets the show in motion so that we're all sort of going in the same direction, you know, and we're working off the same page, literally. So not a lot of improv in those things. And what gets improv'd is the sort of the personality and the silliness, like around the lines, and the timing and the sort of relationship stuff, which is really fun, because then you're saying blah 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 blah, but you're the undercurrent of what's actually going on. There's a lot of unsaid stuff, and that's what I always loved about House, is that I felt like they said a lot of stuff, but like beneath it all there were all those other things going on, which were deeper and more, you know, subtle and fun and stuff. Yeah.
So it was an environment where you're able to go up to the writers and be like, I got a question. And
always,
stuff.
Yeah.
That's great.
Always. You say, hey, you know, why would I do this? And they'll either help you, or they'll be like, that doesn't work. What if we did this? And then they'll switch it around a little bit, and grease the wheel.
Nice.
Yeah.
Any
really cool.
particular episodes that stood out to you when you were doing House that were more fun or challenging or weird?
I really love them all. They were all the actors were in general pretty amazing and fun. And I mean, just the whole sort of working unit was amazing. I got to play. You know, Hugh is a sort of real pianist, and and also, you know, I think he has like an album out, and he plays concerts and stuff. So he took it really seriously. We had a scene where we were supposed to like play. I played piano. I think I played like some crappy jazz lick, and he was playing something on guitar, which he wasn't completely comfortable with because he's more of a pianist. But we got to play music, and we just sort of made it up on the spot as we were doing it. Excuse me. And that was awesome.
Nice.
It was really, really fun, and it was sort of, you know, it was off book a little bit. They let us sort of just like mess around and sort of be like, oh, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do this. Yeah, it was fun.
A nice organic moment.
Yeah, it's organic and just it's just that stuff that's fun. It's sort of come like, hey, you can play the piano. Oh, great. He plays the guitar. You want to do something in the beginning of the scene? Yeah, okay. And then we messed around and we worked it out, and it was fun. It was sort of, just it wasn't in the script, or it was, or they let us mess it up, you know, mess around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you also get kind of a assistant to Sherlock Holmes in a way when you did Elementary.
Oh yeah, assistant. Yeah.
Sort of, you know.
Yeah, I was. Well, I'm sort of his. I guess I'm sort of his nemesis in that a little bit. Whenever I talk about Elementary, I get a little worked up and take that off. Yeah, you know, I got I'm like a horrible nemesis to him in that show. I'm like a crack addict, and then I just torture him a little bit. With
was that
love.
fun?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
And it was great. That was another great show, and I love that show because it shoots in New York. And anytime I get to work in New York, I'm always happy.
Because you're New York.
I'm a New Yorker.
New Yorker.
Yeah, and I love being out here, but it's a different deal, and so it's great to go back to New York for a couple weeks, and you get to shoot all over the city, and it's really fun.
So that must be fun, and it's actually on the location where it's supposed to be set, you know. How often have you had it where you actually get to be in the place where it's set versus somewhere where they pretend it's that location? Well,
I guess most of the time you're on location. I find you know, when you're doing a set TV show, you have, you know, you're in a studio, you have some sets that are always there. It's like, you know, the police precinct or your hotel room or wherever it is, you know. And they build those beautifully, and they're also, you know, built so that the camera can do all sorts of cool stuff. So they pull out the walls, and they're very functional, and they're great, but they lack a little bit of that sort of magic of being in a real place and being out of your comfort zone. And, you know, sometimes the set is a real pain in the butt, but I'd say 99% of the time you find yourself gaining a little bit of something. I don't know, a little magic from the feeling of just being out of your element, and you're in this weird room, and you sort of, it, you know, it's like a pair of shoes or something in your costume. Like, it actually changes the way you walk or you function a little bit. So I love being on location, and it's always I always feel like it adds a little something to it, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's like
it's not too cramped. Sometimes you're like shooting with 75 people in like a house for 2 weeks, and like, you know, 75 grips have peed in the toilet and all over.
You're like, maybe not. Can we
just love to see you guys? For the ladies.
It's like, I love you guys, but I need more space. Yeah. And then how'd you get onto Houdini and Doyle? So you kind of mentioned the connection from House, but I mean, was it straight up like, hey, you want to do this thing, or?
No. It was a weird audition process. I was actually on Elementary in New York, and I had a day off, and on that day happened to be an audition for this thing. I read it and did it. I don't even think I put it together that it was David Shore and Hazelton at the time. Because sometimes you just do that stuff. You're like, oh wait, what do I gotta do? I gotta lines, blah. And then I did that in New York, and then I didn't hear anything for 3 months, and I was doing a play out here with my buddy Scott Kahn, who had written this awesome play that we're doing right over here at the Falcon, which was really, really fun. And
what was it called?
It was called oh my God, don't do that. I'm sorry, Scott. The trouble of where we are. The the troubling thing about us. The trouble. I told you, I'm bad with names.
It's all right. That kind of was like an on-the-spot twist.
There's trouble, and we'll get that later. We're gonna flash it.
You're later gonna be like, oh, I got it. It's this.
The trouble of where we are. The troubling thing of how we got here. Anyway, it's a great play, and I mean that. And we were having a blast, and in the middle of it, I got a call to fly to London to do Houdini and Doyle. Basically, not to do, to audition. And I remember I was running lines with my ma, who lives out here, and she runs lines with me for forever because she's an old awesome actress, and so she it was really cool. So we're running lines, and I was like, oh wait, I gotta go to London tonight. So I literally 2 hours after that phone call at night got on a plane and went to London. I met the director, and and then I met Steven that next morning. I think I had 4 martinis with the director literally that night, and then he was like, oh yeah, here's some new scenes, and I was like, what? No. And I stayed up, I think, all night memorizing whatever scenes they were, and then I did the audition in the morning, and I met Steven, and we immediately connected and hit it off, and he is as you know, delightful, wonderful actor.
Yeah, you guys
and
were
great friend and awesome person. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys were super fun to watch.
Yeah, we hit it off from that day, and I think, and then I had to jump through some more hoops, and then I got the role, and I think 2 weeks later we were shooting.
Nice.
And just doing it, and I was like, what, Houdini? So yeah, it was scary and fun and sort of amazing because my wife was pregnant at the time, and I just uprooted, and I think she was actually pregnant on a tour in Korea or something crazy. And I was like, babe, I gotta go to England for 7 months, and so that happened, and I did, and then we were in Liverpool and up in Manchester, and shooting up there, and that talk about location. It was the penultimate sort of experience of what it's like to live and be in those sort of old incredible buildings and that architecture, and just the history of some of the places we shot. You're immediately in it, and then they had these incredible costumes that they just put so much love into. It was awesome.
I was going to say, to our people in the sky sound booth, I emailed some photos. Are we able to pull those up? I'm sorry I didn't mention before we got started. But yeah, no, I wanted to include some photos of your fantastic outfits you got to wear and your coworkers.
Yeah, they were, Claire Finley was the costume designer, and all of the costumes were just done with so much love and such scope and beauty, and she went to these literally these old 400-year-old tailors in London, and was like, all right, you were making this back then, so what did it look like? Yeah, and
that's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was amazing, and you couldn't really believe, and it was also a lot of work, especially for the first 2 weeks. I'd show up in my jeans and t-shirt. You then have to sort of put on 18 cufflinks and the collar and and I couldn't do it myself. I really could not. I couldn't, and the girls couldn't get out of their corsets themselves, and so everyone's being dressed like little weird bad children.
Well, that makes sense, kind of knowing all that stuff now. It's that's why the rich people had servants to help them get dressed, because there's no way they could do it themselves.
Yeah, you also wonder how anyone ever got dressed in that time at all, anyway.
Oh yeah, nice. So here we go. We got you and Steven there in your flashy suits.
Flashy suits. Yeah, 17 people put him in his costume.
What?
I only had 4. He was really
nice. My goodness. Yeah. That's fun. You can kind of see the world behind you. And then we got a few photos. We'll just go to the next one. Yeah, and I love how quirky the show was.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sad. It's sort of talking about someone who's passed away, because the show got canceled, sadly. But it was so much fun, and I think to me it was such a great family show. It was one of the few shows that I knew of that was fun and dark and silly, and still had some suspense and thrill and a little bit of the supernatural sort of spookiness. But I think you could also watch it with your kids and stuff, and like, you know, it wasn't, you know, there weren't a lot of F-bombs being dropped. I guess it's Fox. They drop Fox bombs.
I'll go to the next photo. I had fun looking up the different ones. So we'll also talk about, you know, we're talking about your wardrobe, but love this promotional one. That was entertaining. And then that was great. So you guys had photo shoots then, promotional?
Yeah, I mean, we were over there, so we did a whole, it was weird. This show was a combination of 3 different producers. So there was a whole Canadian contingent and England, you know, contingent, and then Fox out here. And so everyone had their own sort of piece of the pie, and everyone was sort of working. They all amazingly sort of worked together very well on it. But so we did photo shoots for England, and then we were up in Canada, and we were shooting there for a while, and then we did stuff up there. And so there were I don't even actually, this was in Manchester. I remember that.
Yeah, and then we got our Officer Stratton.
Yeah, lovely, wonderful young actress who you'll be seeing much of, Rebecca Lydiard.
This is our like a screenshot during the episode, and like look at the bright saturated like purple of your violet of your vest. We love the wardrobe. We were watching the show. We're like, oh my gosh, love the clothes and suits.
They were phenomenal.
Were they comfy or were they uncomfortable to wear?
I mean, they were actually really comfortable because like the shirts were silk and you know,
fancy.
Like, I know it's like I had these silk pajamas that I was always like walking around my hotel room. I was like, can we write more of these scenes in, you guys? Because like I'd just be in my pajamas and I'd be sitting they'd built that set, but my bed was really comfortable, so whenever they like stop shooting, I'd be like, I'm good, you guys go get coffee, I'll just stay here and take a little snooze.
Then we got I like so with the seances, that was something I thought was interesting, that we ended up doing the interview today because it's Halloween and Houdini died on Halloween. Yeah. And it's the 90th this year.
Yeah, 90 years old.
Would be, yeah. Or, no, it'd be even more. 90th anniversary of the death.
He'd be way
That's what
older.
I meant, yes.
He'd be...
Well, it'd be 90 plus how old he was when he died.
He was, I can't remember now.
I think he actually lived a decent,
he was 60-ish or something? Yeah. Oh, God, don't.
I'm like, oh, no, I was doing my research and then I forgot, too.
I had some of those things before they've gone. You only have so much as an old man.
Did you do a lot of research on Houdini prior to rolling?
I mean, we started shooting like 2 weeks literally after I got it, and so I was really doing a lot of. I read 3 books on the plane as I was going back and forth, and getting as much as I could. But the other thing about it was like, and as you sort of know in the series, there's some interpretation, like they were very adamant about it not being a sort of Victorian man who was talking like this and blah 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 blah. They wanted it to be sort of a little more modern edged guy that was from New York, that had sort of worked his way up from which Houdini did. He was this immigrant who sort of came to America and worked his way up from the sort of dregs of absolute poverty and became this international celebrity. And so I think the rawness of that, and I did too. I sort of felt like that was the most relatable part of this guy, and especially in the period stuff that we do here in America. It's different. In England, they take it very, very seriously. We always had these battles about like collar on or collar off, and the English were like, collar on, by God. And we were like, well, it's come on, America. We don't see the world. We don't have that same relationship with our this period in our life, and it was different in America, and so they have a different sort of idea about it, and it's very sort of strict. And so like the collar off in certain scenes would invite from the audience in England, the people to come and be like, what, how could he, how dare you?
But you were an American, so
absolutely,
you could smudge those rules a little bit.
And that was my argument too, is that he would sort of mess around with them. But and I think the producers on that wanted that. They wanted a little bit of that they like the sort of back and forth between the American and Brit, you know, a little scandalous, a little bit of, yeah, well, you say this and we say this, you know.
Yeah.
But it was good. It was, in the end, you know, I really liked that part of the character, and I think it worked really well for him as a guy who had this sort of immense ego, but also on the inside was very fragile. You know, he was very sensitive and sort of needy almost. You know, which, you know, I think came out as the writing went on, and as I sort of figured out what was going on too.
Yeah. And then let's go to the next. Oh yeah, we got you guys in your normal clothes here. Which it was like, whoa.
Yeah, what? All my hair's gone. Well, that hair was.
Let's talk about your hair.
Yes, we'll talk about your hair, which is very much like my hair in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. This is, I think, publicity stuff, sort of upfronty kind of stuff that we did here in LA. Yeah, you know, my hair actually was modeled off of Stephen Mangum and his little child, who has his son has the exact hair that I had in Houdini, like with the curl and the whole bit. Yeah, we would joke that we switched hair because my hair in the show was like his hair in life. They made me do. They did. They frankly made me put on hair extensions. So like I had like my hair now, and which is sort of it as it goes, it gets curlier. But they put on these extensions, which is this horrible torture chamber sort of process where you're like sitting in a chair for 3 hours and some lady with a glue gun is like pulling at your hair. And so yeah, that was my introduction to hair extensions. So maybe never again.
Now, when they put them in, did they leave it at least for like a week, or was that like every day? You had to
I mean, these were high powered extensions.
Oh, so like for the season,
the creme de la creme of extensions, which would stay for like a month.
Okay.
But then they'd frighteningly like fall out in the shower. I'd be like blah 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 blah, and then I'd be like, oh my god. I was like, oh wait, no, it's okay, it's an extension. I'm not that stressed.
Yeah, I remember reading on Twitter.
It's still shocking though. I gotta tell you, you see like a wad of hair, you're like, oh my god, I'm dying.
Oh no, I've had that. You're showering, and you're like, but no, it's good.
It's fake.
It's fine.
Fake hair. It's fake hair.
Because I remember on Twitter when the show was out, there was like Twitter conversations between viewers and you of like, your hair.
I was like, I know.
It made that much of an impression on people.
Did. And especially my friends.
Did they get a kick out of it?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Well, the other thing about it was, you know, it's one thing in the show because, you know, they would twirl it and curl it and iron it, and by the end of it, it would sort of live up. But in my own life, I'm not twirling and curling and blowing and drying, and so I would go, you know, I'd look like some straggly, horrible man who was gonna, like, you know, steal your pocketbook if you have a pocketbook. I mean, it would be sort of weird and stringy and down, and I'd go get my coffee, and I'd be like, hey, just give me a coffee, would you please? So in my own life, and I remember I came back to do that play because I sort of Scott's play, like sort of flying back and forth for the first couple weeks, and they put the extensions in, and
they're still in.
And I'd been one character sort of in the play, and now I came back, and Scott was like, "What the fuck, man?" He's like, "Come on, like, what do we do?" And so we worked on like trying to like sculpt it back, and so it was like slick back, and I was like sort of weirdly like sort of Guido Italian. It was.
Can't just get a hat and be like, poof.
Yeah, we didn't do the hat. We just sort of went with it. And I remember the girls were like, "Yeah, no, that's good, that's good."
You're like, you're just saying that. That's
like,
how you doing? I'm fine.
Yeah, you had to sort of overcome it in the first act. No, it was it was a play unto itself. That hair, it truly was.
We'll go to a next photo. Yeah, this is a little dark, but I like you in the environment.
Yeah. That's fun. In our that's in one of our sets, our sort of standing sets in the precinct there.
We love the newspaper bit at the beginning. When that first started of like, we have found a case. It's in the newspaper.
Yeah.
It's like I mean, they didn't do the whole series, but it was funny at the beginning of like, that's how you guys found the news.
This is where we start.
And your character just barges in like, yes, I'm all that and more.
Yes, I know. I'm telling you, you know, for me, honestly, as an actor, and it was a good lesson to me too. And I think, you know, it's hard with a character like that who has such a big ego and it's written into the lines, and you have to sort of find a way that he is both the guy that has that ego and is sort of, you know, controlling everything. And then, you know, if, you know, it's, as a writer, I think they often put in a sort of Achilles heel, you know, and in a movie or something like that, it emerges in that same 2.5 hour period. Yeah. But in a TV show, it often, you know, you need it can come at any time. And so for this character, I felt the hardest part for me as an actor was trying to find sort of where that connection to the audience will be with that sort of, with that blunder and bluster and that sort of elevated sense of himself, you know, where he can sort of connect to people, because the stuff with his mom and stuff comes out over time. But it was something that I don't know, it's an interesting piece of that of I don't know, of that character that I thought in the end is sort of what came out over time, and I feel like he sort of we learned about him as a dude more, and his sort of inner life as time went on. But it was hard to sort of work that in the first, you know, the pilot is always the hardest thing because there's so much happening, there's so much that needs to be sort of established, and we were figuring that out as we went.
Sure. No, I think that show did an excellent job, and you as well. When we were watching it, doing the after show. So guys, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch the AfterBuzz after show of Houdini and Doyle, because we all loved the show.
This is the after
Yes, after show. But yeah, I think we instantly liked your character, even though he was kind of an ass of being so big, but it was kind of funny, and then that just made such a hilarious opposite to Doyle.
Yeah, who also, I mean, in life, that dude is so funny, Stephen Mangum. You have to check him out on episodes. But I love how he played that part too. I just thought he was so earnest and sweet, and then again, like, as we developed our sort of chemistry offset, that repartee became so much fun because it would bleed into the scenes. We'd sort of start. It's funny because, like, when you know someone, you come into the room and you're already at this level, you know, you're already like but when you're getting to know someone, you start, it's a little like, more, you have put a foot here,
testing the waters,
okay, or a little polite, whatever it is, you know, but it keeps it you know, it just is, and it both work in different ways, but it's great when you have that working chemistry and you can both like just relax with each other and you sort of show up and you know he's gonna go there and you're gonna go there, and it's really, really fun.
We enjoyed your bromance as well.
Yeah, we had a serious bromance. Yeah, it was really fun.
And then just how they were protective of Littard and our female. Oh, you're a police officer? Yes, I'm a police officer. Like that, we're just like, oh boy. And, and just how much Houdini was like hitting on her and stuff. That was very funny. Yeah. And then it developed over time. I love how strong of a woman she was.
And for that time, I just thought it was a beautifully sculpted character.
I think I said Littard. Sorry, Stratton.
Officer she was Stratton, but her real name is Lydiard. So
there we go.
You were right there. You were right in the zone. I thought that she was such a great character and such a great foil to these two guys.
Oh yeah.
And then I also like the sort of unique tone of their romance, which was, you know, it was like she was sort of in control, and it upset him. He wasn't used to that, and it threw him off. And yet he was intrigued by it, and yet she didn't really ever give an inch, and so it confused him, and yet they both sort of needed someone and wanted someone, and I thought it was really subtly done, and it was really fun to work with her on that, and it was fun to act because she's this little tiny petite girl. But she's tough, and it was and she could pull that off, and it was great.
And then with the supernatural in the show, semi-spoiler but not spoiler for you guys, nothing really 100% gets revealed. Like the show kind of always left a, well, maybe. Yeah. Where's your stance, and especially since today's Halloween? Where's your stance on like spooky? Do you believe in ghosts? Or not?
Yeah, it's so funny because of the show, I had to tell ghost stories more than I ever had before. I'm somewhere in between, which I think a lot of us are. It's like I guess I like to believe that there's something out there, and not like a real way where I run around scared of ghosts kind of thing. But there are enough unanswered questions in the world that it begs interest and a little bit of exploration, and so I like to believe that we haven't figured everything out, and that our science is obviously not impeccable, and that our senses are sort of still developing evolutionary scale and whatnot, and so what do we know? And then I've had this real experience of going to I was working on a movie Pathology with Mark Neveldine, who wrote it, and Brian Taylor, these two wonderful crazy director-writers. And they were like, yo, let's go down to the morgue, the city morgue. You got to check this out. So we went down one day, and it was I think it was me and Milo Ventimiglia were the two leads in it, and we spent like, I think there were a bunch of us that were there, actually 4 or 5 of us, and we spent like 3 hours in the morgue, and there are these guys that are like listening to like Led Zeppelin, and they're like sawing open a head. But it's so, they're so cavalier about it, and they do it every day, and so and you see there's 5 bodies, and they're chopping through the thing, and then you go in the next room, and there's all these old dead corpses that are, and there's this really sort of rank, weird smell of sort of formaldehyde, and you see all this stuff, and so you're in there, you're living in that world for a second, and you're actually you're seeing dead bodies that are completely devoid of human spirit, energy, whatever that is. And then I just remember driving back home from that, and on the ride back, I'm just driving down Hollywood Boulevard, and you're seeing just people cross in front of your car, and I suddenly was aware, I think more than I ever, for the first time really, of sort of just how what is a dead body versus like a body with living spirit in it, and it's intangible. I don't know who knows what that is, but it's something that to me it sort of defies anything that I understand, and it's so individual, and it's so complex, and it lives somewhere behind your eyes, and it's what we're all what we love to watch on film and figure out in our relationships, but it's unique, and it's powerful, and it's that life force, and without it, a dead body is just like it's like just a piece of it's just there, it's nothing, it's just it's and that, where does all that go? And so the ghosts and all that stuff I like to believe in, and I have an old ghost story from when I was shooting a movie in Prague, and I was with a girlfriend at my old grandmother's house, which was in Paris, and it was like occupied by the Gestapo, and my buddy was there, and we felt we saw a ghost, and like I went in, and then later, a couple weeks later, in the same hallway, and my girlfriend and I thought we saw a ghost, and I still have no explanation for it, so I'm not a guy who thinks about it much, but then like when I'm put on the spot, I go, I don't know, I think maybe it could be.
I think that's a good way to go about it, because it's one of those, like, you don't have enough evidence one way or the other.
I don't have enough evidence, and there's some spooky stuff that sort of happens, and you go, wait, I don't know, and science can explain a lot of stuff, but we're still, there's so much out there, it's like when people say there are no aliens, I go, that seems mathematically like improbable to me,
Yeah.
So who knows?
No, I agree with you on that one for sure. And then it was entertaining though watching your character on Houdini and Doyle of like, generally he was like, no, absolutely not. But then there's a couple episodes where it's like, okay, well, I don't have a reason for it, but
I'm still right. What I loved about that argument, that is, it's a sort of, it's what we're talking about now, the skeptic versus the believer. I love that, and I think that within Houdini, and especially I think for real in Houdini, having talked to sort of Houdini experts a lot, and there was this part of him that wanted to understand and wished that there was, you know, in the medium that he saw, wished that they were actually real, and that they offered that other world, and that there was, but he just wanted proof of it. He wanted like real evidence of it, and he didn't want the quackery that he could sort of, you know, do himself and do better than anyone else.
We want to get rid of the frauds.
He wanted the frauds out, and he wanted to rip that down because he didn't want people to be taken advantage of. But he also, you know, at his core, even though he was this sort of, you know, mass skeptic, he wished that there was something, and sort of felt like if anyone was going to figure it out, it was him. And I think that's sort of maybe where the premise for this series came from, and I love that about that character, because it was the skeptic, but who sort of wanted to believe, you know, which is, you know, I think maybe how I am somewhere.
Well, there's the one episode, I think it's with the cave people, where the roles switched, and you got to be the believer.
Yeah, totally.
That one was super funny, because it's like, it's one of those, like, okay, is Houdini just being a jerk, or is he just being one way?
I think he starts out being a jerk and like wanting to be like blah 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 to you, and I'm right, and then as he gets into it, he sort of starts believing his own argument more and more, and then I just love. I mean, that was the thing I loved about this show. I just love the way that they sort of wove in, you know, I don't know, like deep sort of thematic human elements of, you know, whether it's, you know, about feminism or racism or you know, like in that episode, I think it was you know.
Well, it's the others.
It's the other sort of. You know,
it was racism
bigoted,
because it was the
anti-Semitic sort of thing toward me, and a small sort of town mentality that didn't like the outsiders and was scared of what that represented, and you know, it's pertinent to our politics today as we, you know, and I love that being woven into that you know, turn of the century stuff, and it's sort of sad maybe we haven't come all that far after all. But it's definitely it's something we still sort of you know, have to battle in ourselves, you know, as a, you know, as our politics show.
Yeah. I like that the show isn't necessarily like straight history fact. It was more of a historical fiction, which I think lent to more options of what you were able to do in the show. Something we did on the after shows, we had like we started off with facts of like, okay, well, Houdini was already married at this point, but then you're like, but then you don't get the fun little romance thing. So,
then I'm just a jerk who's having an extramarital affair.
You're like, well, he's
then I'm Donald Trump.
But then it worked being historical fiction, because then we don't know about all the cases and stuff like that, because that was something like IMDb was saying, like, well, actually the facts of what Houdini did. I'm like, it's historical fiction, guys.
Yeah, I mean,
calm down.
And you know, I think it's always hard when people are like, but he would never do that, because you're like, well, he also didn't team up with, you know, Doyle to solve crimes. Yeah. Let's start there, because that's what the show is. So they didn't do that, and if we're you know, from that point on, we're gonna make some stuff up. But I like that liberty, you know. I think that's the fun of doing these shows and bringing these characters, is that you get a real piece of history. Yeah. But you might fudge it a little bit, and you might, you know, grab a couple other people that lived 10 years or whatever.
Oh, that was so fun with Bram Stoker.
Yeah.
Stuff like that was entertaining.
I love that stuff. I love that stuff. I love it. Like, it's like that thing in like Shakespeare in Love. I remember, like, they did something, I don't remember it obviously that well, something with the first toothbrush or something. She's like, I'm gonna brush my teeth now, and she had some like weird, like, you know, wooden thing.
I remember that on Young Indiana Jones, where he used like a green onion bristles.
Yeah, really. Yeah. So like, I love that stuff where you're like, oh, that's what toothbrush looked like back then. It was just two pieces of wood.
You're like, I'm glad we live today.
We honestly, we're very lucky that we live in this time. I know that a lot of stuff is wrong, and that our earth is suffering, and yet those toothbrushes back then might have killed you.
There's modern conveniences where you're like,
might have taken you out. Yeah, modern conveniences, showers, thank goodness.
Well, the show is definitely also that kind of hybrid of having the modern music and, you know, the feel of it, because that's
interesting. You never know how that stuff's, you know, like we were talking about it right before we started, like, oh yeah, the music it's such an other part that sort of gets tacked on later in this stuff, you know. And it's always I'm very moved by music in film and stuff like that. It's a huge other player to me, you know. I love seeing something that I've done and then what the choices for the music are and how it sort of plays into the way the scene goes. And
this show had some excellent music choices as well.
Yeah, really fun music.
Fun or really good moody where you're just like,
totally.
oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I thought so too. And really, really good.
Yeah, so overall, guys, if you haven't watched Houdini and Doyle yet, you need to go watch it.
Yeah, go check it out. It is. I think by the end of it, especially, like, you know, I think the first couple episodes, honestly, I feel like we were really, you know, you're getting your bearings in a big topic, and we're really trying to figure out where, I think everyone was. I mean, literally between all of us on set, producers and writers, and but then as it went on, I just loved it. I won't say that very often about stuff I'm in. I'm very sort of hypercritical, but in this I truly liked it, and I had so much fun with it, and by the end of it I thought it really showed its sort of its sweetness and its fun, and it's also its suspense and sort of thrills. It was really great.
Yeah, it is sad it wasn't renewed, but I thought it was interesting. It's listed as a miniseries now on IMDb.
Yeah. Well, I think
that's a good way to describe it, I guess. If
it became a miniseries.
Yeah, just
once it was canceled.
We're like, oh, maybe BBC will pick it up or something.
Yeah, I don't think it'll get a second life. Sadly, but
it ended well enough within that capsule.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still unanswered questions, but through the arc of what it is, it's like it's a satisfied viewing.
I think it was started as a. I mean, it was always meant to be multi seasons, but it was. They called it a miniseries from its get-go.
Oh,
it was
okay.
sort of like, I think that's maybe how it's framed in England. I don't know who put that tag on it.
Yeah.
But I think because of that, it does it sort of it plays well in its 10 episodes and you get a. I love that we journeyed from England to America and all that stuff. That stuff was really fun. Really great to do.
Was there any pranks done on set? Because I feel y'all are a bit playful. That maybe something ever, or
we were so exhausted. Honestly,
okay.
We worked so many hours, and that like all the prank was exhausted out of us. So we'd be like, I put that in your coffee. No, we did very little of that. We were mostly like, so are you okay, man? You all right? Do you need? All right, I'll get us both coffees. All right, should we get more coffee?
Yeah.
But we did have fun. I mean, we messed around a lot. But there wasn't a real prankster. Maybe if anyone, it would be Arwell, the guy who designed all the sets, who was just brilliant. He does all this stuff for Sherlock, I think, as well. That TV series, and he's just like he would take these streets and he just like reconfigure them.
Wow.
And you'd wake up and you'd show up and there'd be like, oh, we're in turn of the century. But he'd mess around a little bit, but I don't even remember what they were.
That's all right. Any other funny stories that you remember specifically from set?
I don't know about. I mean, there was fun. I love Mangum. Sometimes would. It was so funny to have like all these extras dressed up, and the Brit extras especially take their stuff very seriously, which is wonderful because you actually get great acting in all these scenes from people who are just entering and exiting and being a part of the world. But he sometimes would just go by them and just get a shot of all of them because they are all so interesting and fully costumed and made up and everything. So there are somewhere in the file, the vaults of Houdini and Doyle, are some very, very fun sort of dolly shots of extras putting on faces and being in character. That's probably more funny to me alone in a room than it is telling you right now.
It's interesting. It's a time capsule of that world. You just color correct it a little bit and they'll think it really is from that time
That's
period.
it. That's all you gotta do. Real people back in the day on film.
Yeah.
Because there's film.
Sure.
We did the greatest part about that thing, and it's not pranks or silliness as much as you'd get to ride in a carriage or something like I had to they literally on the day of shooting, they were like, "All right, so you're gonna drive this carriage," and I was like, "Oh yeah, wait, whoa." I don't know how
Literally,
to do that.
whoa.
Yeah.
Pull the reins.
On that idea, whoa. And so I did. I like Mangum and Rebecca are in the back, and being cocky about blah 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 as Houdini is, and we're going up this hill and so and I'm driving the thing, and we're all terrified because the guy is like, all right, don't let it go too fast, but
You're
it's
like,
impossible.
okay.
Yeah. And the horse is galloping, and everyone knows that I have no clues. Everyone's just like, and then like 8 hands will come on and just like take the reins of the horse, and we'll all sort of get out a little wobbly, but alive. And so
There was the car too. You guys had a sort of car thing in at least one episode.
A real car that crashed often.
Oh.
Once shooting started. They'd wind it. It was like a car with like 35 cranks and gears and pulleys. So this guy would come up, he'd go, he'd wind this thing up, and then he'd crank these things, and he'd push that thing, and he'd pump that thing, and then they'd be like, all right, go. And we'd be like, it's a long way away from you. And then it would be like, and we'd be like, all right, we need that guy again.
Come back, reset, back to 1.
But then once it did get going, then it was awesome, and then Megan was like driving around like a wild man. It just didn't make
like
really
Mr. Toad's
sharp
Wild Ride.
Yeah, it was exactly like that. It was 100% Mr. Toad car. But we would, it didn't make really sharp turns, so we would have to just like,
really wide.
We were just almost hitting everything as we sort of came back around, but you didn't want to let it stop, So you were just trying to keep it going, but you might run into something if you didn't, It was really fun. Yeah, it was great.
Nice. Love it. Oh yeah, I love hearing the stories of it, because it's you can tell that you all got along. It was just a wonderful, enjoyable show to watch. Is there anything you're working on right now that you can tell us about or coming up?
Yeah, well, I just did that thing in Rosewood.
Yep.
I took about for the first time in my life like 6 months off to just sort of be with my kid.
You did get a newborn, so.
Yeah, I just decided I was going to sort of do that for a while. And it was great. And now I'm sort of getting back to work. So I just wrote a TV show.
Ooh, cool.
That will be for myself and a couple friends to work on, with probably Jimmy Simpson, who you might know, and James Roday. So that's in the works right now. And then a movie that I wrote also. I just got a little money to do it, and hopefully it's all going to come through. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. It's something I'm going to direct. So
directing too. So actor, writer, director.
Yeah,
anything else?
That's next on the chopping block. And really bad tennis player, but I want to play more. Right?
Well,
honey?
you can get better. Practice, right?
Yeah, that's a thing between me and my wife. We're gonna do it this year. We're gonna totally do it. We haven't done it.
Become better tennis players.
We just figure like that's something you can do as old people. You can sort of hit
there
balls at each other and then go get it.
Yep. Well, you can have your son go fetch it. Be like,
yeah,
can you go?
Fetch, boy.
Can you get it,
Bring
please?
me that ball.
I don't want to pick it up again.
Put that in your mother's hand.
Yeah. Well, fun. Congratulations on those new projects. Hopefully they get going quickly and become something awesome.
Yes. Fruition.
I was like, I don't know what gesture I'm doing here, but
this
for those listening, this is big, grandiose.
This is seeded and grow into a wonderful TV series.
Well, cool. Well, we've come to the end of the time of the interview. Thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure talking about the show. Too. And have fun taking your son trick-or-treating for the first time tonight.
Here we go.
How
Lots
exciting.
of candy. We're going to fill that bag.
Yay. So why don't you let people know where they can find you, stalk you online?
Oh, my goodness. So I have, I think I'm so new to this, you guys. It's like I'm 3 months in. It's I think it's _ Michael _ Weston. Or maybe it's Michael _ Weston _ that doesn't make sense. I think that's Twitter and Instagram. I'm learning how that all goes. I made my wife figure it out for me today.
It's all right. I should have prepped you ahead of time. Be like, okay, wait, let's look at it.
It's out there somewhere, you guys, and I'll be better next time. But it's,
I'll link you. I'll post the video and link you.
All right,
there we go. Because then you're like, there, I found it.
Yeah, I'll find it too that way because I can't find myself.
It's okay. That's what the app is for on your phone to make it easy and faster.
What's an app? No.
Application means it's too many syllables for them young folks, so that's why. App.
Yes. That's what I need.
Nice. I love
I
it.
need some apps, guys.
You're like, I need cool apps for my phone.
I need that app thing.
Apps, yeah. My name is Kari Lane. You guys can find me online at Kari D Lane. That's Karidlane. And again, thank you so much to Michael Weston for coming in, talking about Houdini and Doyle. If you haven't watched that show, go check it out. It is on Amazon Prime. And then you can also check out the AfterBuzz after show of it as well on YouTube. And make sure to subscribe to AfterBuzz. Thumbs up on the video. 5 stars on iTunes. And we'll see you next time.
Right
Thanks for
on.
watching.
Bye.
From
Bye.
executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Come in and do a photo and stuff, so.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.